Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. At the site of Zaiyat al-Sultan, 6 kilometers southwest of el-Minya in Middle Egypt, along the east bank of the River Nile, ancient quarries lie within the limestone cliffs. Here you'll find an incredible relic of the ancient past, something that is so rarely spoken about, an object that most people don't even know exists. Yet, for anybody with an interest in ancient history, ancient technology and ancient architecture, this certainly needs to be on your radar. It really needs to be spoken about more widely and studied. I've got to thank my friend Ludovic Sell for pointing me towards this incredible ancient wonder, which was posted on Facebook by the Journal of Ancient Egyptian Architecture on April 22nd this year. Links to Ludovic's social media channels are linked below in the description. So, what are we looking at? Well, still situated inside an ancient quarry are the remains of an enormous unfinished statue, a huge block of limestone 22 metres or 72 foot long and 8 metres or 26 feet in width. Before we go further, let's put this into perspective. The stone of the pregnant woman at Baalbek is 20.5 metres long, 4 metres wide and 4.3 metres in height. This stone in Egypt is longer, wider and taller. It is larger than all of the monolithic blocks at Baalbek, including the larger ones that are situated close to the stone of the pregnant woman. Based on the rock type and dimensions, some speculate that this block in the quarry at Zaiyat al-Sultan could weigh more than 2,000 tons, which means it's also heavier than all the blocks at Baalbek. After spending a while on Google Earth, I've located the block and I've put the coordinates in the description below. I also must apologise for the fact that the majority of the images in this video are black and white, but that's really all that's available as far as I can see. The focus of this video isn't a well-known subject. Interestingly, the outline of a statue of a king is faintly chiselled onto the block, and so we know that this stone was being quarried to make what would have been one of the largest and greatest colossi of ancient Egypt. This site really is an invaluable reference for the ancient Egyptian construction processes, and if anyone is serious about wanting to know how the Egyptians carved enormous blocks of stone, and the processes and techniques involved, this really is a great starting point. So, what do we know? Well, there are vertical separating trenches on all 4 sides of the block, each being around 8.5 metres deep and 50 centimetres wide. The bedrock has natural fissures located along the vertical separating trenches. What this implies and what the experts believe is that the ground surface was first cleaned and levelled to identify natural fissures, which could be exploited to make the stone easier to excavate. The early stages of work are these vertical separating trenches, as well as 2 ramps to allow easy access to the site. Foothold holes were also dug in multiple places as a secondary route to get up and down the rock face. This site is also interesting because we also get an idea of how they planned to get the rock out of the mountainside. Multiple vertical separating trenches were excavated on the eastern side of the Colossus, so that excess rock could be removed to somehow eventually lever out the Colossus. Of course, exactly how they would get a 2,000-ton statue out of the hillside is not yet understood, but these features here must be related to the removal process. It is also important to note the proximity to the River Nile, which would have been between 500 and 1,000 metres downhill to the southwest, depending on the height of the river at the time of the quarrying. Interestingly, a low horizontal tunnel, passage or cavern with a ceiling height of around 60 centimetres has been dug underground beneath the boulder, and here the relief of a colossus has been chiselled onto the block. This passage was dug to separate the colossus from the bedrock. Here we can see the floor plan of the underground area. Rooms A to D immediately under it support the huge rock with the columnar wall that remains at the southeastern corner, with only 3 cross walls remaining. There are also regularly spaced out double course stones put in place as the rock beneath the Colossus was quarried away. On the ceilings of rooms A to G, there are many red lines, as well as Demotic and Greek graffiti said to be from the Ptolemaic period. Before the graffiti was discovered, it was assumed that this was another Amenhotep III colossus, but the language, style and content of the graffiti, as well as the pottery discovered, have led experts to now believe that this work is Ptolemaic. There are more than 100 examples of graffiti, including writing, numbers and quarry marks, and they all seem to be construction related, and therefore they are contemporary with the excavation work. As many of you know, the Ptolemaic period of Egypt was between 305 and 30 BC. Obviously, we don't know why the work on this colossus was stopped, but it does indicate that the Ptolemaics must have at least believed they had a way to move such an incredibly large block of stone, else they wouldn't have started the project in the first place. Of course, although hotly debated by many, the official view on the Baalbek monolithic stones is that they are all Roman in origin, quarried to build the Temple of Jupiter sometime after 16 BC. Many that don't believe the official view argue that there simply wasn't the technology to move a block that weighs more than 1,000 tons. But, as we can now see, over in Egypt in the decades or centuries before, it looks like the Egyptians were planning on moving blocks weighing more than 2,000 tons. Of course, you can say they were unsuccessful because, well, the block is still inside the quarry, but there is no evidence to assume the work stopped simply because it could not be moved. It seems to have stopped during the excavation process. The reasons why, we don't know. I can't pretend to know how the Ptolemaics intended to move it, and I don't know how much research has been done at this site since papers were released in 2006 and 2008. But I would say that this could well be a very important site to help us understand not just how the dynastic Egyptians cut and moved enormous blocks of stone, but it could also tell us how it was done at Baalbek. I'm currently trying to contact the people that have worked on the site, and if they can provide any further details, if they have translated any of the writing, and if there is any further information on the construction process, and also any clues on how they intended to move it, I'll be sure to report it here on Ancient Architects. So, in summary, we know that we have an abandoned Colossus statue with vertical separating trenches dug around it, and these exploited natural fissures. There is an excavation tunnel underneath it, with hundreds of examples of workers' graffiti that were written in the Ptolemaic period. We can see that the rough shape of the Colossus was etched onto the stone, showing that this work is dynastic, and preparation was also underway for the stone's extraction, as seen by the trenches on the eastern side. Which king in the Ptolemaic period ordered this work is not yet known. Interestingly, the statue is thought to be one of a pair, because we find another unfinished Colossus 1.5 kilometers south of the Akoris city ruins in what is known as the South Quarry. This was excavated using a very similar style and technique, and is slightly larger, measuring 24 metres by 9, and, by all accounts, it was abandoned at a similar time during the excavation process. There were no traces of red lines or graffiti as seen at the first statue, and it's possible that this site was slightly behind the one at Zaiyat al-Sultan. Ptolemaic pottery has been found at both sites, but as of 2008, work was still ongoing and I'm yet to find out any more information. Technology is a hot topic in the study of the ancient world. And so, this quarry in the heart of Egypt is certainly a place we really need to focus our attention on a lot more. We have all seen the famous unfinished obelisk, many of us have made videos on it, but this site could really help us get further to the truth, and help us to understand the incredible and seemingly impossible stoneworking techniques of the ancient world. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.